I immediately put up a closed for the day sign at the shop and headed to my son's apartment. The room was pitch dark, making it hard to see. The inside felt chilly, and it seemed like the heating was off. I called the names of my grandchildren as I entered the room. Mary, Ken. Grandma's here. As I moved further in the unlit living room, I saw two small shadows move. When I turned on the light, there was Mary, looking terribly thin in the freezing room. Beside her, Ken was shivering as he ate a banana from Mary's hand. 4 frightened eyes stared back at me. Mary, Ken. I couldn't help myself and hugged them both. Mary and Ken clung to me tightly and started crying loudly. Their small hands gripped me firmly. How scared and alone they must have felt. Their mother had collapsed and gone to the hospital and hadn't returned, likely leaving them terrified and feeling abandoned. Thinking about what they must have been going through made my heart ache. Their father, Tim, wasn't here. When I called and pressed him about his whereabouts, he laughed it off. Family trip. We'll be back tomorrow. So, safely. With that, I hung up. Little did he know the shocking scene that would greet him upon his return home. My name is Tina. I run a small diner, and today, like every day, lunchtime was a rush. This diner, Mike's Diner, was handed down from my in-laws. Welcome. I'll have a table ready for you in just a moment. Running the place by myself makes it hard to keep up. My regulars, seeing me hustle, tell me not to worry. Take your time, no need to rush. Those words always offer me a bit of relief. Some customers have been coming here since my in-laws' time, while others are new faces who live or work nearby. I love these moments when the diner is full of lively chatter and everyone enjoys the food. Hearing someone say the food is delicious makes me silently cheer inside. Once, my husband and I ran the diner together. People always need a good meal to cheer up when they're hungry, he'd say. That was his mantra. We enjoyed brainstorming new menu ideas, counting the day's earnings, and rearranging the seating together. Those days continued until our son, Tim, was in high school. But then, in his second year, my husband died in an accident. It was a tough time, and I even thought about closing down the diner. With Tim facing college entrance exams, I couldn't ask for his help. I doubted I could manage on my own. Then, a regular customer told me, "We'll be waiting," with a gentle smile on the street. Seeing that smile, I decided to give it another go, even if I had to do it alone. Everything will be all right, we'll make it through. I consulted with acquaintances and my late in-laws, and scaled down the diner to a size I could manage on my own. Thus, 3 months after my husband passed away, Mike's Diner made its fresh start. Tim successfully passed his college entrance exams and got into his first choice school. I want to live on my own since it's far from home. Sure, that sounds good. Let's go check out some places. I always tried to accommodate Tim's requests. Since he was young, both my husband and I were so caught up in the diner, we hardly had time for him. The diner was thriving, and we couldn't neglect it. Even after closing, my husband stayed behind for prep work. After coming home from the diner, I would cook dinner, keep Tim company, and wait for my husband. "Papa, are you working again tonight?" I remember Tim asking every night when he was little. His lonely expression is etched in my memory. I wished we could have had dinner together as a family more often, but it only happened once or twice. I've always felt guilty for making Tim feel so alone. I want you to learn what you are passionate about, find what you want to do, and pursue it with all your heart. I told him this on the eve of his college entrance exams and again before he moved out for college. Tim just nodded, looking a bit down. He didn't say much more. Even after he started living on his own, I kept the diner running by myself. We had enough savings to cover his college tuition, so he didn't need to take out any student loans. The 4 years he spent in college flew by in the blink of an eye. During that time, I continued to run the diner on my own. After graduating from college, Tim got a job and started working. Imagining him in a suit and tie, jostling in a crowded train on his way to work, I smiled to myself at how much that little boy had grown. And then, he even had a girlfriend he was planning to marry. I was shocked when I met her, as if my eyes were about to pop out. Tim's girlfriend, Mia, looked like she could be a model in a magazine. "It's nice to meet you, I'm Mia." Her beautiful voice and polite way of speaking overwhelmed me. "I thought you might be the daughter of some rich family." "Not at all, we're just an ordinary family." Her laugh was elegant. What did Tim have that attracted such a wonderful person? It seemed more like Tim had moved into Mia's place than they were living together. I didn't have a choice, my neighbor was too loud. No choice, huh? Tim. "It's fine. I had rented a slightly bigger room to begin with, so it works out well." Mia said this cheerfully, as if throwing me a lifeline. Her polite speech, elegant manners, and this bright smile. I completely took to her and found myself saying, "My son might be a handful, but please take good care of him." Thus, the two of them happily married, and 3 years later, they were blessed with 2 children. The first was a girl, named Mary. The second was a boy, named Ken. "I've become a grandmother now, haven't I?" I mused solemnly, speaking to my husband's photo. Even after the children were born, Mia would find time to come by the diner. "Hi, Tina." "Well, hello there." "Mia, what brings you here today?" "After the kids were born, I switched to a job I can do from home." "Oh, to live in such times." I marveled, looking back and forth between little Mary and Ken, thinking about how they too will grow up and become independent like Tim. Children truly are a miraculous thing, making me gaze at them even more intently. With each passing season, my 2 grandchildren grew. As my face gathered more wrinkles, before I knew it, Mary had started elementary school. "Mary, how old are you now?" I asked her one day when she was visiting the diner. "I'm 6 now, and I'll be 7 on my next birthday." Her reply was so well spoken, it was hard to believe she was just in elementary school. She must take after her mother. According to Mia, she's really good at taking care of her younger brother, which has been a big help. "They don't fight and get along so well," she said with a proud smile. Everything seemed to be going well, leading to a bright future, but not everything was perfect. I had one worry, and it was about Tim. Ever since getting a job, he had a hard time sticking with anything long-term. He quit his job at the company he joined right after graduating from college within 6 months. "It's just too much work. Doesn't pay enough for what they expect." Then, he found another job, only to quit that one in 3 months too. "I can't do what I want there, and nowadays, any job that doesn't allow remote work is just unreasonable." "If you keep changing jobs like this, you'll never accomplish anything." "It's not my fault. It's the bad economy." Every time something didn't suit him, he would find an excuse to quit. Seeing him like this made me just shake my head. "If you're not working, then you must be taking care of Mary and Ken, right?" "Me? No, that's Mia's job. I don't have anything to do with it." It was Mia who was supporting the family in place of Tim. Even while talking to me, Tim's eyes were glued to his phone. I wondered what he could be so engrossed in. "Hey, Mom, you should check this out. I've taken up food blogging as a hobby, posting on social media." When I asked to see his phone, it was filled with pictures of delicious-looking steaks, omelets, curries, and desserts. Tim was going on about followers and likes, but it was all Greek to me. "Why don't you get a real job instead of playing around with this?" "It's not a game, I'm serious. I'm trying to become an influencer." "What's that?" "Never mind. Just follow me and hit like, okay?" "I don't know how any of that works." "Give me your phone. I'll install this app for you, and here's how you do it." With quick fingers, he set up an account and showed me which button was like and how to view posts. But once he left, I was still completely lost. I just can't keep up with all this. I set my phone aside and focused on the diner's accounting books. Occasionally, when I video called Mia, I found out that she, too, was encouraged to follow Tim's social media activities, despite more important things being closer at hand. I was happier to see Mary and Ken via video calls than browsing through social media. Tim had helped out at my diner for a short period right after he lost his job. He thought it seemed easier than corporate work. No job is easy, but I was grateful for his help. I've heard that children taking over their parents' businesses is becoming less common. I never intended to force the diner on him. I was prepared to close it gracefully when the time came. However, I harbored a faint hope that Tim might have had a change of heart. Delighted, I had Tim greet customers and take orders. He got along well with the regulars, chatting with them, which was refreshing. The first week seemed to start off well. Perhaps this suits him better than corporate life? I thought, but by the next week, Tim began to slack off. He hardly took any orders, didn't clean up, or greet customers properly. Moreover, he started browsing social media in front of the customers, asking everyone, regulars and newcomers alike, to follow him and like his posts. The following day, Tim didn't show up for work at the expected time. "Tim? Where are you? Taking a day off today? I'm quitting that job. It's harder than I thought." After that, he wouldn't answer my calls, and I was back to running the diner alone. In the end, Tim stopped coming to the diner in less than 10 days. Since then, Tim has been more focused on social media than anything else. Meanwhile, Mia has recently been working multiple jobs, cutting back on sleep. I worry she might collapse from exhaustion. Yet, Tim shows no concern, continuing his food blogging and social media posting without a second thought. Mia let her true feelings slip during one of our rare video calls. If only he could earn a little bit. She sounded unusually downcast, her shoulders slumped, her once bright smile gone, her beautiful voice sounding hollow. Tim continued to roam for food, rarely home. When I scolded him, he always said, "Becoming famous and expanding my network will benefit my future." I listened to him, not putting much stock in his words, yet part of me wanted to support him if that was his way of making a living. Deep down, I also harbored a soft spot for letting Tim do what he wanted. Mia seemed to believe in Tim's endeavors, too, hesitant to criticize him harshly. Indeed, his actions, whether by luck or effort, had slightly increased his follower and like counts. But I soon realized that was a mistake. One day, business as usual in the diner. The weather outside was as cold as midwinter, with cloudy skies and a forecast of possible snow in the evening. With no customers around after lunch, I used the time for evening prep and cleaning. As I was wiping down tables, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Mia calling. Expecting another routine video call, I answered. But the voice that greeted me was weak. "I'm sorry, Tina, there's something I have to tell you." She had collapsed from overwork a few days prior and was going to be hospitalized for a while. "Hospitalized? How are you now? Are you okay?" "I'm somehow managing." "Don't be shy about it. You should have told me sooner." "I'm sorry. I tried to, but Tim said there was no need to tell." "Tim did. He said he'd take care of the kids, but I'm worried about them." "Of course. Is Tim at home?" It's hard to believe he would actually take care of things. But if his wife was hospitalized, even Tim would presumably take care of the children. "He said he'd look after the kids." "I want to believe that, but..." Her hesitation made me uneasy. "He's been posting photos on social media. I'm afraid he's not looking after the kids." Mia had been following Tim's social media too. And then, suspecting something, she checked his app to find that even on the day she was hospitalized and the day after, Tim casually posted photos of burgers. I was dumbfounded as I listened to Mia's story. Moreover, that shop is out of state. This can't go on. Children under 10, left alone without their parents, can't possibly fend for themselves. "I understand. I'm heading to your place right now. Could I come with you?" "No, Mia, you need to rest up there." I firmly insisted, then hung up. Without doing so, she might actually try to come along. She's under doctor's orders to rest, it's simply not allowed. I quickly put up a temporarily closed sign at the diner and headed to my son's apartment. It was just 2 train stops away. Fortunately, I had a spare key for emergencies like this. I rushed in, unlocking the door.
Mary. Ken. Where are you?
The room was pitch dark, hard to see. As I stepped in, something like a plastic bottle hit my foot. Silence all around. Taking another step into the quiet room, it felt chilly inside, and it seemed the heating was off.
Mary. Ken. Grandma's here.
Moving further in the unlit living room, I saw 2 small shadows move. When I turned on the light, there was Mary, looking terribly thin in the freezing room. Beside her, Ken was shivering as he ate a banana from Mary's hand. 4 frightened eyes stared back at me.
Mary, Ken.
I couldn't help myself and hugged them both.
Grandma.
Mary and Ken clung to me tightly and started crying loudly. Their small hands gripped me firmly. How scared and alone they must have felt. Their mother had collapsed and gone to the hospital and hadn't returned, likely leaving them terrified and feeling abandoned. Thinking about what they must have been going through made my heart ache.
I'm sorry for not noticing sooner. Everything's going to be okay now.
I turned on the heating and, while the room warmed up, pulled out coats for the 2 of them to wear. In the kitchen, I boiled water and made some hot cocoa. Mary and Ken both finished their cocoa with relish. Until now, there was no sign of Tim. In fact, I hadn't even seen anything that looked like his shoes. Hoping it was some mistake, I called Tim. He answered immediately.
Mom?
Something you need? He laughed carelessly as he spoke.
What are you doing?
I'm trying this limited-time menu right now. It's totally Insta-worthy. Where are you now?
Family trip. I'll be back tomorrow.
From the background of the call, I could hear the bustling noise of a crowd. Clearly, he seemed to be at a tourist spot. But he wasn't with his family, he was alone. Even now, he seemed to be thinking only of himself. He couldn't protect Mia, Mary, or Ken. I felt a strong determination that I needed to protect them. While boiling with rage, I tried to keep a calm facade. Stay safe, then. Oh, right. What about souvenirs? Before Tim could finish, I hung up the phone. He had kept Mia's hospitalization a secret. And just for some limited-time dish, he left his kids behind. When I asked Mary, it seemed Tim had lied about going to work.
I knew it. Mom worked too hard and collapsed, right?
Even in her youth, she understood the reason behind her mother's collapse. Overwork. How can Tim not understand what even a child can?
Mom looked really sick all the time. So, I gave Ken stuff from the fridge to eat.
Did you eat anything, Mary?
No, I held out.
She shook her head, her cheeks slightly sunken, too thin for a child her age. She probably hadn't eaten anything during the days without her parents.
I didn't go to school. I want to see everyone, but I thought I should wait for Dad to come back.
Mary's eyes welled up again. Mary, you're such a strong girl. That night, I decided to stay at the apartment. I wanted to cook them a meal, but the fridge was empty. Clearly, you can't make an omelet with just ketchup. No helping it. Let's eat out. What would you 2 like to eat? Hungry, they started listing everything they could think of, unstoppable. Eventually, we settled on a family restaurant, enjoying hamburgers, omelets, parfaits, and more. Seeing their beaming smiles, I felt relieved. People always need a good meal to cheer up when they're hungry. My husband's words came back to me. Returning home, with their stomachs full, they quickly fell into a peaceful sleep. Watching their calm faces, I pondered over Tim's actions. The next day, Tim still hadn't returned. As I talked to Mary, I checked Tim's social media activities. Social media makes it easy to share information, but it also means Tim's actions are completely transparent. Today again, he posted about eating pasta at another restaurant. That boy. Just you wait and see. I took the kids and headed to the hospital where Mia was staying. She was just getting discharged, finishing up the paperwork at the billing desk. At the entrance, Mia, Mary, and Ken rejoiced in their reunion.
But why are you here? I can't forgive what my son has done. You all, come stay at our house.
But we shouldn't impose. The one imposing is us. I'm so sorry for what my son has done. Then, I whispered a plan to her. Mia looked surprised at first, but then resolved to act. Eventually, Tim returned home a week later than he said he would, only to find the house empty. What's this? He even posted about it on social media, treating the whole situation as a joke, which was exasperating. Minutes after posting, he showed up at my diner. Hey, listen, Mom. Mia and the kids. He started speaking as if he couldn't believe what happened. When I got home, there was no one there, nothing left. Oh, is that so? It was lunchtime, and the diner was filled with regulars. He began to tell his story to the regulars, seeking their sympathy. I'm working hard on social media for my family, but my wife and kids ran away.
Oh, that's tough.
I listened with a disinterested ear, but the regulars reacted differently. The sound of chairs scraping back filled the room. Slowly but surely, they moved closer to Tim.
Terrible, right? Right, everyone.
One of the regulars, not understanding the situation or perhaps because Tim was provoking them, said, "You're the guy calling yourself Timmy on social media, right?"
Yeah, are you a fan? Thanks for following. Don't joke. You made us follow you by nearly forcing us. Eh?
The other customers nodded in agreement.
Getting notifications from you is annoying. And you treat food with such disrespect. Did I do that?
Playing with free toppings, saying the food is bad after just one bite, you did that, didn't you? Well, that was just a joke.
And more than that, seems like you were just playing around, not caring about your wife and kids.
So, that. I was going to earn money by becoming an influencer.
What kind of influencer?
The regular scolded Tim, his face turning red with anger. The other customers joined in, and the diner was filled with shouts of condemnation. Just before Tim arrived, I had explained the situation to the regulars. Mia had canceled the apartment lease right after being discharged from the hospital. Now, she, Mary, and Ken are living with me because Tim neglected his family for his solo food tours. Moreover, he was focused solely on increasing his follower count and likes on social media. After revealing everything, the regulars, having seen Tim's actions on social media, were furious.
They said, "Let me give him a piece of my mind," and gathered everyone together.
Unaware of any of this, Tim had been busy posting on social media.
Stop it. I did nothing wrong. Help.
Tim was kicked out of the diner by the regulars, crying and pleading.
Never show your face here again.
He was sternly reprimanded by the regulars and fled, screaming. Since then, he hasn't been seen. Weeks have passed. The weather forecast talks of spring's arrival and preparing for pollen. Recently, I've felt a bit of itchiness in my nose, perhaps because of that. Mia has been complaining of non-stop runny nose due to pollen allergies. I've noticed more regulars wearing masks. As for Tim, as far as I know, he didn't have pollen allergies. His whereabouts remain unknown. Desperate to become famous, he had pushed his friends to follow him. But it backfired. Since that day, his social media exploded with negative attention from informed followers. His identity was known to those around him, making it unlikely he'll return to this town. It seems like karma for wasting food. Living with Mia and the kids, I continue to run the diner as usual. Recently, we created a website for Mike's Diner, now accepting reservations online. Mia, who works in web design, found this easy to manage. The website features our dishes and the spirit of the diner passed down from my in-laws, as well as about my husband. I never met your husband, but through these stories, I feel like I have.
What a lovely website, Mia. Thank you.
Her efforts didn't stop there. She digitalized inventory and sales accounting, making daily bookkeeping much easier. Everything typed into the computer is automatically calculated.
Such convenience.
Even I, not used to phones, found it easy to get the hang of. With online reservations now possible, we've seen an increase in customers. Mary, returning from elementary school, started helping out at the diner. She handles phone calls competently.
Hello, Mike's Diner speaking. Yes, would you like to make a reservation?
A bit clumsy, but she refuses to let me take over, shaking her head, insisting she's fine.
Our recommendation? Fried chicken. It's freshly crispy.
Watching her deal with customers, scribbling notes, she's charmed everyone. I wonder if she'll take over the diner someday, as I manage it today.